they aren't able to be with us here in person tonight. They have recorded some videos for us that walk us through what those contests look like, give you kind of an overview and an idea of where to go to find more information, show you what the cards look like. And if you've never participated in any of our judging contests before, they're contests that here in Duval at the Jacksonville Fair, but they could be held in a variety of counties or at a state level all over the place. And the goal is that you're learning about a topic and then you come to the contest and you're able to show us what you've learned by either identifying different plants or being able to decide what item is the best value based on a scenario if you are purchasing something, or maybe if you're involved in poultry judging, you're grading eggs or grading chicken carcasses. So it could be a variety of different things. But tonight, what we'll be talking about is a lot of identification, knowledge of various types of plants and forest environments. So Ms. Kelsey, I'll let you go ahead and show us the first video there.
Okay, so the first one that we're going to be watching is forest ecology. So Ms. Grace, if you could stop your share screen. Oh, there you go. I'm going to share mine. 1 second to do so. Okay, so we will watch this first, and then we'll have questions afterwards. So remember, as Ms. Grace said, that this is a pre-recorded video explaining it. So watch the video, and then if we have questions, we'll go to that afterwards. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Everybody can see my screen. Are we good? Okay, here we go.
Hello everybody, my name is Larry Feiger and I'm the Urban Forestry Extension Agent here in Duval County, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Forest Ecology Contest that we have here in Duval County. It's not as extensive as the state contest, but it'll be good practice, and for those who want to go to the state contest, it would be a good session to figure out where you are, and then you have plenty of time to study more or study different things or realize where you need more assistance. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go ahead and talk about the contest here, some of the specifics. Okay, so a little bit about the Duval County Forest Ecology Contest. Typically we have 4 stations. That'll be the trees of Florida, the plants of Florida, forest health, forest ecosystems for juniors and intermediates, and at the same time, the senior quiz for seniors. These are all exactly the same rules, regulations as the state contest, but it's just a little bit different. Instead of being held outside, it'll be held inside at the arena. So first we'll talk about Trees of Florida, and it's basically where we have tree samples, and they'll be, for the juniors, they'll have to identify 15 trees, the intermediates 20 trees, and the seniors 30 trees. And so the website up there is the School of Forestry website that will have a listing of all the trees that will be for seniors and juniors. And let me give you an example of that. So here's what the website looks like. And if you notice the columns, the third column, the X's, these would be the trees that are listed on the junior contest, versus these will be the trees that are listed on the intermediate. And this, all of them, will be listed potentially in the senior contest. So this is typically what the contest looks like. Now, this is actually at the School of Forestry, but this will be similar to how it'll look like at the fairgrounds, where I'll have some tables set up and there'll be various tree samples, and pretty much 99% of them will be live or picked samples. So you'll have twigs. You can, unless I say that you can't, you'll be able to pick them up and look at them. There might be a few that might have thorns on them or something like that, and so I would not want you to pick them up. But for the most part, you can pick them up, look at them. You can't pull any leaves. You can't crush them and smell them or anything like that, but you can look at them pretty hard. And then this would be the score sheet that everybody will have. And this, for instance, is the junior tree ID score sheet. And they'll have a total of potentially 20 trees. And these are the trees listed. And so when you get to sample, say you get to sample number A, and you'll look at it and you'll say, okay, what is that sample? And if it's a bald cypress, then you would put 3, the number 3 down right next to the A, which would be bald cypress. So this is the intermediate score sheet, and this would be very, very similar. So say bald cypress again, because you're looking at essentially the same trees. So for A, in this case, because there are more trees available on the intermediate list, bald cypress is actually number 4 on this list. And so that's another reason why it's never a good idea to look on somebody else's paper, especially if they're in a different class, because they'll have a totally different score sheet. And unfortunately, this is probably the hardest part of the contest for seniors, is they'll have to know what the name of the tree is without a word bank. And so it gets pretty tough. Seniors will also need to know how to spell the name properly. And for instance, if the tree is a red maple, they'll need to put red maple, because there's more than one maple on the score sheet. So if they put just maple, that will be marked wrong. So fortunately, this is the hardest part. It kind of goes down, it gets a little easier from there for seniors. The next contest table is the Plants of Florida. And this is the website where you'll find the information. Juniors will need to know will have 10 plants on their contest. Intermediates will have 15 plants in their contest. And the seniors will have 20 plants in their contest. And so this is very similar to how it'll be set up. The plants will be on a table. And again, you can pick them up and look at them. For the thing, everything will be safe. If it's not supposed to be picked up and looked at, more than likely there'll be a picture or an image, say for poison ivy or poison oak or poison sumac. I for sure wouldn't want anybody to pick those up and look at them. So they'll be specially sealed, or they might be an image. If you see this one over here is actually inside of a plastic bag. So that might be the way you handle something that shouldn't be picked up or touched. So you don't have to worry about your safety on this contest. So this is what the website looks like. And again, the juniors, if you can look and say air potato or the junior list, have the X's here, and these are the intermediates, and then the seniors, of course, have everybody. The one other good thing, I don't have on here, but if you were on the website and you clicked on any of these that are highlighted, and all the plants are, you'll actually go to a website that has them, has a little bit more description, has pictures, all kinds of things. So this is the score sheet. It looks a lot like the forest trees of Florida score sheet. So for instance, the juniors, if they got to letter A and had a plant sample and it was kudzu, for instance, they would put 10 right here because kudzu is number 10. And so you've got a plant list, you've got a word bank, so to speak, so you don't have to remember how to spell or what the scientific name is or any of that stuff. You just have to know how to recognize it and know what it is. So this is the intermediate score sheet. It's a little bit longer. If you notice, the juniors just had to know 21 plants. The the intermediates have a choice of up to 31 plants. And then the seniors, thankfully this time for plants, there is a word bank. And so the seniors have to potentially know 37 plants, but there are 20 on the contest. The third station is forest health. And so these are insects, diseases, and stresses that trees and plants might come in contact with in the forest. The thing that makes it interesting is that because it's inside, I don't have live samples of the insects, diseases, and stresses. And so basically what I have is pictures or images of the insects, diseases, or stresses, and you will have to identify them from there. For instance, this one is pitch canker. So we'll go, when we get to the score sheet, we'll look at that. But here's the website again, and it has the listings of what juniors need to know, what intermediates need to know, and what seniors need to know. So if we go back to this picture, this is letter B, and it's pitch canker. So right here for B, if we were scoring this, we would look and find pitch canker right there. And so we would put 12 right there if we were a junior. If we're an intermediate, this is what the score sheet looks like. And there's a little bit more insects, diseases, and stresses for the intermediate. So the letters are the numbers are a little different. So still for B, if it's pitch canker, let's see, where is it? Right here, 19. So we would put 19 right there if we were intermediate. Versus if we were a senior, again, there are a lot more choices that we need to know. So if we were still talking about B and it's pitch canker, we would put the numbers 27 right there next to pitch canker. This is where each year the contest changes a little bit, and when we're talking about forest ecosystems. And each year the state level chooses 2 ecosystems to include on the contest. This year for 2020, it'll be upland hardwoods and mangrove forest. Now this changes every year, and we're going to go look at the website and we'll determine. For juniors, there'll be 20 multiple choice questions, and for intermediates, there'll be 30 multiple choice questions about the forest ecosystems. So here is the forest ecosystem page on the website. So if you look, 2021 And that's basically, I choose for each year, for the Fair Forest Ecology Contest, it will be the same ecosystems that you'll run into at the next state contest. So even though this current year is 2020, we'll be looking at the 2021 contest. If we're at the fair in 2021, we'll be looking at the 2022 contest. So it'll be bottomland hardwoods and sandhills. So each one changes. And so what happens at each of these contests, and this is where you need to know a little bit ahead of time. You'll have to do some reading. But let's go to the website. Let me go back. And I just wanted to show you this. Hopefully this works. If we went to upland hardwoods, what we'll have is for intermediates, there'll be a description of upland hardwoods, and for juniors, there'll be a story for upland hardwoods. And we'll go there. As it comes up. Let me move that over so we can see. And so basically it's a story that has all the information about upland hardwoods. And so you'll need to read that ahead of time and understand everything that's in the story. So back to the contest. So this is the website again. And so this will be what the station questions will look like. So for 1 year it was pine flatwoods, and question number 5 and if you notice the color, this is blue, so it's an intermediate question. The threatened woodpecker that makes a cavity in live pine trees is called, and you would have known this from the resources that you were given. And so it would be either A, a flicker, B, a pileated woodpecker, C, a downy woodpecker, or D, a red-cockaded woodpecker. And in the case of this question, it is red-cockaded woodpecker. So another portion for intermediates is there are 4 plants to identify that are common to whichever habitat is being tested. So when it happens to be flatwoods, this is one of the plants that you'll be tested on, and it's a gallberry. So if you notice, the juniors, they don't have to worry about plant identification, but there are questions, and so you would put the right answer. In this particular year, it was sand pine scrub and pine flatwood, so you would put A, B, C, or D listed on each one of these. This is the junior, intermediate, or excuse me, not the junior. This is the intermediate forest ecosystems score sheet. So it would have been one of these answers. And then here is where, if you look, this is where you would have the answers for the plant identification. So that's a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a memory kind of. It's not so much you can study for, but you can read the resources they give you and kind of understand them, and you get to learn about the ecosystems. So if you notice, the forest ecosystems are for the juniors and the intermediates only. For the seniors, they get to take, it's similar, a forest management quiz. So let's go to the website, and there'll be 25 questions. This is the Senior Forest Management Quiz resources page. And so basically, it will be somewhat like a quiz bowl, and there's lots of different places where I can get questions from. So it's just a lot of preparatory studying, looking, becoming familiar with these documents. So 25 questions. Oh, this is what it looks like. And so this would be one of the questions. So what is phloem? A, the part of the trunk that carbohydrates produced by the leaves are carried. The part of the tree where water is transported up the trunk, the inner bark, or only A and C. So the answer is, if you knew what phloem was, it's the part of the trunk that carries carbohydrates, and it's also called the inner bark. So when you got, let's see, what number is that? Number 18. So when you got to number 18, you would put D, only A and C. So that's the Senior Forest Management Quiz. It's probably harder to prepare for because you have so many different resources to look at. But I won't create any questions that I'm trying to trick anybody or get really specific. It'll be broad categories. So that, in a nutshell, is the Forest Ecology Contest. This is my email address. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me through email, or for sure give us a call at the Duval County Extension Office. My phone number is 904-255-7450. Anyway, that's the contest in a nutshell. I appreciate you being here. For sure, give me a call or email me if you have any questions, and I'd be glad to help some folks figure out what they need to study, or if you had any questions. I had, just in case you couldn't get it, these are the kind of things that I would have in the plant samples or the tree samples, and these would be laid out and you could look at them. And if you want to go out and check some things out or learn some things, let me know and I'll be glad to set something up. In the meantime, good luck and thank you for joining.
Okay, everyone. So that was an overview of the Forest Ecology Judging Contest that we hold at the Duval County office. And I've put a link in the chat box to another site that I have pulled up. And this is a pretty cool Google site. Well, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it's pretty cool, that Larry and Kelsey have been working on to provide an overview of the Forest Ecology Contest and how to learn about all of these plants. Because if you're like me, I did not grow up being able to identify, 30 trees, 20 plants, whatever it might be. And I've been having to learn quite a bit about forest ecology myself. So on this site, it's going to give you an overview of the contest. And then if you come to these different tabs, right now we have videos for trees of Florida and plants of Florida. It doesn't cover all of the plants and trees on the contest, but it gives you a pretty good starting place. And here you'll find a bunch of videos. It looks like the screen's loading right now, but a bunch of different videos that are each about 2-ish minutes long that show you really how to identify these different trees. So what does an American elm look like? What does American holly look like? What about sycamore? All of these different things. And Larry really talks through what are the ways that you know a plant is or a tree is, what you think based on how the leaves are arranged, the way the leaves are shaped, what other factors might be a giveaway. So like we said, there's a tab for trees of Florida. There's a tab for the plants of Florida. And so you'll see the different videos identifying those plants there. And then at the end, we also link you back to that State School of Forest Resources and Conservation page. And it has that full list there of all of the different plants and trees that you would be able, or you would need to be able to identify for the contest in forest health. We don't at our local level have that wildlife on the forest hike, but if you're going to compete at the state contest in the spring, you would want to know that. And then some other different pieces you might need for that state level contest as well. So that is kind of an overview there of that site. And we hope that you find that pretty useful. I learned a lot from listening to Larry talk about all of these different trees and plants, and we think that you will too. So let us know if you find those videos helpful as you're studying for the forest ecology contest.
Oh,
And I will hand it back over to Kelsey.
yeah, and I'll share too that, we're kind of thinking, is this a good way for you to study with the Google sites? Like, would you like one for horticulture ID or poultry judging or anything like that? So as you're going through it, give us some feedback on, yeah, that was really useful, it helped me, or no, I would rather see something like this. So we'll take that kind of feedback that you might have as you're going through that site. It obviously takes a lot to go out and find in video. So if it's not useful for you, let's find a way that is useful for you to study. So that was forest ecology. Does anybody have any questions that they wanted to ask before we went to horticulture ID? Go ahead, Hannah.
Where can I go for the poultry judging workshop?
I'll put a link in the chat box, but we can also send you and your mom an email with the link too. But it's on our Duval County 4-H YouTube channel, but we'll get you a link for the site. Actually, Ms. Grace, if you don't mind finding that link for her and putting it in the chat box, that would be awesome. But we'll get it for you. Go ahead, Katie.
Are we identifying the trees by pictures of the trees or tree leaves?
That's a good question. I'm going to let Ms. Grace answer questions about forest ecology.
I apologize. I was on the other page there. So for the trees and plants for forest ecology, Mr. Larry does go to the Jacksonville Arboretum and some other location to get actual samples that will be laid out on the table. Now there might be a couple here and there that he just doesn't have access to a sample for, or maybe it's something that is poisonous that he doesn't necessarily want to put out on the table. So in that case, there might be a few photos mixed in, but the vast majority of the tree and plant samples that you see will be live tree and plant samples that he's pulled. So good question.
Anything else? Go ahead, Hannah.
How many trees do I have to identify? Also, can I be on a team with my brother?
Your brother is an intermediate, right? Or is he a senior?
He's a senior.
He's a senior. Okay, so you have to be on a team that is your age. So all the team members for the junior contest have to be juniors. For all the, I said that backwards. So all the team members have to be the same age category. So everybody would have to be juniors, or everybody would have to be intermediates, or everybody would have to be seniors. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, you can also compete as an individual. So even when you do your contest, we're going to place the top 3 teams. We're also going to place the top 3 individuals.
Okay.
And Hannah, are you a junior or intermediate? And I can how many plants and trees?
I'm 9, so I'm an intermediate.
Perfect. So for intermediates, need to be able to identify 20 trees on the contest. Now there may be more than 20 trees that you study from, and 15 plants are on the contest.
Okay.
Actually, Hannah, you're going to be a junior if you're 9.
Okay.
So even fewer.
Yep. Okay, and Sienna asks, are these trees local to New York? What, like all of the trees?
So the plants on our Ecology contest and the trees are all things that we can find here in Northeast Florida. So some of them may be invasive. And if you look on those study guide lists, it'll tell you which plants might be invasive, but all of them are things that you can find right here.
Okay. You guys ready to go to Hort ID? Yeah? Okay. Here we go.
Rangers. I'm Chris Kerr, the commercial horticulture. Hey 4-Hers, I'm Chris Kerr, the commercial horticulture agent for Duval County. While I'm normally assisting the professional landscapers, land managers, and pest control operators, I oversee the 4-H horticulture contest for our county as well. Now, if you haven't participated in this before, it may sound daunting, but I can assure you through hard work and studying your plants, you can succeed in this contest. Today, I'm going to show you how the contest works so you're fully prepared on the day of the event and you can focus on the horticultural questions at hand instead of trying to figure out how things work. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or your 4-H agent and we'll be happy to assist. All right, so this contest is really an opportunity for you to learn about horticultural plants along with their parts and products. Right, it's designed to help improve your ability to identify, cultivate, employ, and enjoy horticulture. Horticulture is extremely important to Florida's economy, and it's vital to everyone's health and well-being. All right, so we're just going to go over the eligibility requirements. In order for you to participate, you must comply with all the 4-H rules and regulations governing the county, district, and state events. All the contestants are urged to participate first at the local and county level, but district elimination is not required if you decide to go to a state contest. All right, each of these 4-H teams consists of at minimum 3 to 4 members, but only the top 3 scores are going to be combined for the total team score. All right, team members will also compete independently. The horticulture contest is broken down into 2 major components. We have both the horticulture identification portion and the horticulture judging. And in both of those components, we're going to cover 4 different groups of plants, namely fruits and nuts, vegetables, flowers and foliage plants, and ornamental plants. All right, the contest is going to be broken down into 5 separate sections. So notice 4 of these sections are for horticultural identification. All right, so we'll have our identification of each of those categories, and then there'll also be a table for horticultural judging, which will include 1 sample from each of those 4 categories. All right, the identification portion is worth 700 points. All right, so it's real important that we are able to identify as many plants as possible. For the juniors level, you'll have a list of 20 plants possible, and from that list, 15 of them will be on the table in front of you. All right, and this is going to be for each of these sections. So fruit and nuts is going to have 20 plants, vegetables is going to have 20 possible plants, flowers and foliage will have 20, and ornamental plants as well. For the intermediates, they'll have to work from a list of 30 plants, and 25 of those are going to be represented. All right, and then for seniors, they'll have a list of 50 plants per category, right? So that's a total of 200 plants that you're going to need to learn to identify, and of those, 35 in each category are going to show up. For the judging portion, this is going to be worth 200 points, and they'll have 4 classes within each group, and you're going to have to divide those up, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so this is our general layout. Either we'll have 3 or 4 tables for each section of the event. All right, so notice you can see that these are labeled with numbers, and they're going to be in order from 1 to 35 for each of those sections. Now, if you're a junior, what you're going to do is you're going to work through until you reach your number 15, and then you'll stop there. All right. If you're an intermediate, you'll still start at number 1. You'll do all the identifications that the juniors did, and then you'll move forward and cover the additional to 25. And then finally, the seniors, again, they'll start from 1, but they'll finish all the way through and identify all of the plants on the tables. Right? And then you'll rotate from station to station, depending on when you get there. You may start at one station or another, but what we're going to do is we'll show you the rotational strategy, and I'll tell you, you're on table 3, and so you'll start on that identification sheet or that judging sheet. Excuse me. You'll be given an identification sheet for each of the 4 different plant categories. Right here, I'm just showing the flowers and foliage as an example. Right, and this is what's going to look like. So here on the left, you see this is our juniors. Right, notice the total score out of 15. So there's still 20 plants are listed on this, but only 15 of them are going to be on the table for you to identify. So what you'll do is, if you go through and you see number 1, and you realize that it's a canna, you're going to place the number 1 in that specimen number box next to the canna, and then you'll go through, and as you identify the plant, you'll take that number, and you'll place that number in the specimen number box next to the common name of the plant that you've identified. On the right, you can see the intermediate level paperwork, right? And this is going to be your score sheet for that. And then the seniors, as you can see, have a much larger range of plants they have to be able to identify. And so they'll have a little bit larger sheet. And again, they're going to follow all the way through, identify everything. You know, it's something I've seen. I've only run the event once. I did see there was some confusion, particularly with the juniors, as to when they should stop. So after you identify your 15, remember, that's all you have to do. You don't need to keep moving on. You know, I saw several juniors that would continue on, and they identify 16, 17, 18, 19. So you only need to identify the first 15 if you're a junior, the first 25 if you're intermediate, or all of them if you're the senior. All right, for the horticulture judging competition, this is how it's going to be laid out. Again, 4 tables. Notice we have 4 different classes. So we'll have 1 class of flowers and foliage, 1 of fruits and nuts, 1 of the ornamentals, and 1 of vegetables, okay? And within each of those classes, notice there are 4 separate samples, right? The samples are always going to be the same number. So if I had say apples, for example, if I had 3 apples on one plate, there's going to be 3 apples on every plate. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at each of these, and you're going to decide which one is the best quality and which is the lowest quality. And you'll label them in that order. Right? And then, of course, during that rotation, you need to go through and judge all of those classes before the time is up and you have to transfer to the next one. All right, so with our horticulture judging section, this is the scorecard, the score sheet you're going to get. Again, notice there's going to be 4 different classes of horticultural plants that you have to judge. All right, each of those 4 classes, they're going to have that 4 specimens, and they'll be lettered from A to D, from left to right. All right, so say we had these samples in front of us. All right, so notice sample A, B, C, and D. All right, we need to be able to look at these and decide based on their qualities, you know, how we rank them. So depending on what we're judging, we're going to look at different things. So if we're looking at ornamental plants, for example, then we're going to be looking for weak or poorly formed canes or trunks, excessive scarring, scars that don't heal properly, poor graft unions that didn't heal, or branches with poor distribution, dead wood, or cold damage. All right, our foliage plants, we're looking at improper shape, size, chlorosis, potential nutrient issues, pests or mechanical injuries, dead leaves. For our fruits, again, you have to be able to identify what it is. You're looking for fresh at the optimum stage of maturity for eating. Right, produce that's over mature or immature needs to be downgraded in that rating. They should also be clean, free from insects and disease or any damage caused by such pests. In addition, you're going to be looking for bruises, blemishes, and keeping in mind that a lot of these surface blemishes may not actually affect the eating quality, but they do reduce eye appeal and they reduce consumer preference for them. All right, and finally, you're looking at uniformity in size, shape, color, and type. So if we approach this one, right, we know this is our class 2, right? It's either a fruit or a nut. And what do we have? Well, we identify it as grapefruit. So we'll place that in our product section. Okay, then we start looking at these. We can see that some of them are past their maturity stage, right? They're over mature. All right, those are the ones with the darker coloration on them. So we want to grade them based on that as well, and any other injuries we might notice. Now we find that B is the highest quality. So what do? We put that in our placement in the first position, B. All right, when we look again, which one do you think is the second quality here? Oftentimes the suggestions are that you approach it and look at the best quality and the lowest quality first and place those and then decide between the remaining two, just as a hint, as a possible tactic to approaching these judging. All right, so here we see that D is our second highest quality, so we'll place that letter next. All right, and then C is our third. We'll place that after the D. Then finally, A, right, this is now fairly over mature and may start to be degrading significantly in quality, and we'll place that in A. All right, if you get them in that order, B, D, C, A, and if that's the correct order, then you'll score 100 points. Right, just getting the first one correct can score you 76 points. Right, so you want to really focus in on those, and we use a matrix to score this. So the closer you are to the correct order, the more points you'll earn. All right, once you've gone through all of those stations, all 5 stations, each time you do a station, you're going to turn in your tally sheet, and we'll collect them and hand them to our volunteers. And as the contest is still going, actually the volunteers are already starting to tally your scores up. All right, and then we're going to put all that through our database, and we're going to determine who is the winner. And there's a lot of study resources out there, and there's a lot of things to study. All right, this is a great website, the Florida4H.org. By Perkins Bentz Horticulture. If you come to this website, notice right here at the bottom, revised study materials. Right, they have the list of plants that you have to identify, and they also have slides that show you images of each plant. Now, don't rely just on these, though, right? So take those plants that you're not sure of and search online, search through university resources to find more images of it. And then, of course, go for walks. Identify them in the environment. And look at different aspects of them. Look at their flowers, look at their foliage, look at their trunks, because you don't know what component or what piece of that plant I'm actually going to bring to show you. All right, particularly seniors, is going to get more and more difficult. So you really need to pay attention to all the aspects of that plant and identify it appropriately. All right, and that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or your 4-H agent.
Okay, guys, so that was our overview. I'm going to share with you that resource page that he has, that Mr. Kerr mentioned in his presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for that because I want to point out a few things for you guys. Everybody can see my screen, hopefully. So this is a good site to go to get all of the basics. One of the things that I've always found, especially with horticulture judging, is the ID, you know, you see the study guides, you see the slides, it's kind of a memorization game. But how do you judge? A judge can be a little bit harder. And it's kind of, if you don't read the website, you can miss it, but you click here, okay, and this is going to take you to a different document. And when you go down, it talks about how do you judge fruits and vegetables. Okay, so it talks about the maturity for eating, clean, free of insects and diseases, free of bruises and blemishes. The shape should be, you know, uniform shape, size, color, type. So it helps you kind of figure out those little elements to judging these different categories. And I think this site really kind of helps. So if you just have a few things in mind, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to look for, you know, a really well-shaped grapefruit that has good color and look like it's ripe and ready to eat. I'll put that as my 1. And then 4, you know, you obviously, maybe you see some, you know, molding, or you see an insect on it, obviously a 4, and then you can take your other 2 and split them into the middle. It does matter, you know, a 1 and a 4 is important. If you mix up your 2 middle ones, you won't lose as many points as if you can get that first one right. That's important to think about when you're doing any judging contest, not just horticulture judging contests. So again, it talks about all of those different 4 categories for judging. That's really kind of helpful to go into the contest with just a couple of things in mind that you're going to think of for each category. So, you know, when you're looking at fruits and nuts, okay, I'm going to remember 1 or 2 things, and the same, you know, with your other categories as well. Okay, so that was a very quick overview of both of those contests. It was more about the mechanics of the contest and what to expect. Do you guys have any questions about horticulture ID? Okay, well, great, guys. Any overall questions about these 2 contests? Go ahead, Hannah.
What time?
What time are the contests? Okay, so good question. We are going to be having all of our judging contests on Saturday, November 14th. I'll go ahead and share my screen with a picture for you guys. That might help be a little bit more visual. So remember, we usually have all of our judging contests.
And Kelsey, I have some slides if you want me to throw them up for that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So remember, we usually have all of our judging contests when we host the Greater Jacksonville Fair. And this year, the Greater Jacksonville Fair is not going to happen as it traditionally does. But they are going to do what they're calling a fair food fest. And it's a weekend event. So it's just going to be a Saturday and a Sunday. And we're going to have our judging contests and clinics at that event. So on Saturday will be we're only going to do 4 this year, 4 judging contests. Usually we have all 5, but it's just without the animals in the barn, we're not going to be able to do livestock. So we're just going to do poultry judging contest, horticulture ID, forest ecology, and consumer choices. And then on Sunday, we're going to do a pullet auction, the dog show, a dog clinic, a rabbit clinic, a poultry clinic, and our, I already said our pullet auction. On Saturday, the events are going to start at 9:30 a.m. We recommend that you get there between 9 and 9:15. 9:15 will be the first call for welcome, but we'll have check-in. Just like we do normally at the fair, where we have different rotations of check-in for the contest, we're going to do that again this year, just like we normally do. The one difference what's going to be, so that everybody can be spread out, is we're going to have 2 contests running simultaneously. That means for on Saturday, if you're a junior or a clover bud at 9:30, you're going to start doing the poultry judging contest in the arena that we're normally in. But if you're an intermediate or a senior from 9:30 to 11, you're going to be in the back of the barn doing consumer choices. And then once those contests are done, those 2 categories, they're going to switch. So Clover Bud and juniors will go to consumer choices, and intermediates and seniors will go to poultry. And we have it like that for the rest of the day. And that's just to help everybody stay spread apart and socially distanced for this year. We'll go until 5:30 will be our final announcements of forest ecology and the horticulture ID contesting results. Just so you guys know, there is going to be food out there, and there is going to be the foundation, so our 4-H foundation, we're going to be running the concession stands in, hopefully, in the exhibit hall. Oh, okay. What are the clinics? Good question, Sky. So the clinics are going to be beginner level courses of what that animal project is about in 4-H. So the dog clinic, we're going to go over an overview of the dog 4-H project, and then we're going to do some rally courses and agility courses. So you get to bring your dog out. Like I said, very kind of beginner level, but everybody is welcome. You do have to bring your vaccinations for your dogs to just get checked if you want to come out. But even if you haven't done the dog project before, it could be a good opportunity to check it out and see what it's like and hear from some 4-Hers who do the dog project and can answer your questions. Same kind of thing for rabbit and poultry. We're going to talk about showmanship. We're going to talk about breeds. We're going to talk about what it means to do a 4-H project for rabbit and poultry. And we're going to have those who are experts in those areas and who are already doing that 4-H project share a little bit about their experience and what it means to do a rabbit 4-H project or poultry 4-H project. If you're doing the pull-it auction, you have already had to be participating in that, but that's going to be at noon, and we're going to do our pull-it auction for those youth who have that contest. Does that answer your question, Sky? Hopefully. Do you have more questions about the clinics? Okay, perfect. Anybody else have any questions that we can answer for you guys about judging contests and clinics for this year? So remember, everybody needs to be enrolled in 4-H online so you can get your membership card in the mail, because that's how you're going to park and get into the contest. Just like we do for the normal fair, we're going to have to do that for this too. So if you haven't already done your profile this year for 4-H online, make sure you take some time and get that done so you can get your membership card in the mail, okay? All right, any final things we can answer for you? Anything at all? And Ms. Grace is going to preview just one other activity that we've got coming up.
So if you've been enjoying some of the tours that